everyone, thank you so much for clicking on this Netflix review. The fact that you are willing to sacrifice a few minutes out of your day to consume my content really does mean the world to me. For those of you that are unaware, I review everything that gets released on Netflix. If you're ever curious about a new movie, series, or show, trying to figure out if it's good or bad or completely mediocre, come to my channel and I will let you know. And today we're going to be talking about the new Spanish Netflix film, which is called The Wasteland, but originally in its original release was called The Beast in its native Spanish language. And I just have to say, watching this movie, I was reminded about how well movies can be made. This was a movie, the entire time I was watching this, I was just thinking, wow, this is cinema. This is what happens when a director or the cinematographers really come together and they put their all into making sure that a film can look as visually pleasing as possible. And that's definitely the highlights of this film, was the cinematography, the direction, brilliant. This film felt like art. Ultimately, we follow a small family living in seclusion as they start to begin getting haunted by a beast. And it's about their attempt at survival, fighting off this beast, and how they're going to succeed as a family. And after watching the trailer, I was hooked. I was so ready to watch this movie. I was building this thing up to, I was like, this is going to be the best way to start a new year. This is going to be absolutely fantastic. I feel like I may have built this film up a little bit too much in my head, because when watching it, I won't lie, I did feel a little bit disappointed by the conclusion. But I think that's just a result of my own hype. But I think if you go in watching this movie, don't set your expectations too high, but just allow yourself to enjoy it and watch it and become engrossed in its world, because it's a beautifully made film and it's brilliantly acted. But there are a few negative points within the film here and there. But first, I want to talk about what I really loved about this movie. I mentioned earlier the cinematography, and I just have to say it was phenomenal. I would watch this movie again just for the cinematography. The closest movie I could compare it to is probably Pig. If you watch that movie, it's starring Nicolas Cage, you'll understand exactly what I'm talking about, because you're able to take a relatively simple story, in this case just a family trying to survive, but you make it so much more engaging and so much more entertaining when you incorporate these incredibly creative camera angles and you just make sure that everything is visually appealing. At the end of the day, before anything else, cinema is a visual medium. Yes, we use audio as well. Yes, music is definitely there to boost the mood and the narrative, but visuals are the primary medium. And if you can make your film look amazing and feel immersive just through the visuals alone, then you are doing something incredibly well. And that's what this movie did. Then I want to talk about the soundtrack. We're going to move on from the visuals to the audio, and this film knew exactly when to put its original score in and when to give moments of silence. This was an incredibly creepy score that definitely built up the tension, and the sound design throughout the entire movie was phenomenal and engaging. We had scenes with lightning and thunder that were powerful and scary and intimidating. But then we got moments of silence that were supposed to show us moments of intimacy and moments of care. And so this was a film that was directed brilliantly in that regard. We got moments of tension, but also moments of relaxation within this film. I'll say the weakest part of this film is definitely the dialogue. I watched this film, the first half was in the original Spanish, European Spanish, if I'm remembering that correctly. And then I watched the second half in English with subtitles, and I watched dubbed, because I always want to get a good idea of subbed or dubbed. Because that's always a big debate that goes on my channel. And I have to say, both were rather disappointing, and it's because of the dialogue. I feel like the script, as beautiful as the story is, the actual interactions between characters is incredibly disappointing, especially in the first half of the movie. The interactions we get between Diego and his mother felt childishly written. And that sounds really harsh to say. Again, it's a beautiful story, but I do feel like the script let it down. And I feel like, especially just the dialogue between Diego and his mother. But I think also, if you want to flip it on its head, I think what the film symbolizes is great. There's a great symbolic message throughout this entire story about growing up. Ultimately, at the beginning of the story, what sets up is Diego's father is always trying to push him to be a man, to take responsibility, to mature, whereas his mother is constantly trying to baby him and say, no, don't grow up, stay young, stay a child, enjoy life, stay pure. And that's ultimately Diego's entire journey. Which way does he go? What does he grow up? Does he become a man, or does he stay young? Does he listen to his mother? And so if you look at the script from that perspective, then the script is almost brilliantly written because it perfectly encapsulates Diego's point of view in regards to growing up. But just as a normal watcher, if you were to just sit down and listen to the script, I think you might be a little bit disappointed. But let's go back into some positives. The performances, even though I feel like the actors weren't given the most impressive script, their performances were absolutely brilliant. Beautifully acted, incredibly immersive. They were, as much as I love the cinematography, I mean, you can only watch visuals for so long without being encapsulated in the characters. And the actors really brought these characters to life. But I will say, they became really unlikable. Of course, we're dealing with an isolated family, and with isolation comes a whole bunch of problems. We get people that are socially awkward around one another. When people are fighting, they can't just feed off of one another's angers because they can't really escape. They don't get any alone time because they're in such a small house. And so it just becomes incredibly annoying when you're dealing with characters that are always disagreeing with one another. And I think the primary protagonist, which is Diego, unfortunately isn't very likable either. In regards to character development, unfortunately, we're stuck with Diego as our protagonist. And I just feel like his development was stagnant until like the last 5 minutes of the film, where all of a sudden he just developed into a completely different character. And I was just thinking, wow, we had an entire movie where we could have gotten shades of development from him. But instead, we get so little until the third act, and especially the final 5 minutes. That was incredibly disappointing, especially when the core concept of this film is Diego either needs to grow up or he stays young. And so the fact that he only chooses to go in a specific direction in the last 5 minutes, to me, was really disappointing. But yes, guys, I thought this movie was absolutely phenomenally made. I really, really enjoyed it. And I would highly recommend it to any of you out there that love horrors or that love films that are just visually, aesthetically pleasing. But guys, thank you so much for watching. If you haven't yet, please subscribe to my channel, give this video a like. If you want to also jump over to my community tab, there you'll be able to see that all of my subscribers are constantly voting on the latest Netflix releases. So I want to know your opinion on the shows as well. But guys, thank you so much for watching. You're the best, and I hope to see you again in another review.